Hey guys, Delta for Life here with a deck profile for you guys with a deck that I am honestly just loving, and that is Melodious. Now, of course, it says Fantasia up here because I made this I made the original version way back when they were still called Fantasia, but that's beside the point. Anyway, so how does this deck work? Well, it's a light fairy archetype that basically revolves around special summons. If you don't, basically your monsters are useless if they have been normal summoned. So, well, aside from Mozarta and Soprano, but that's beside the point. Those two you never want to normal summon regardless because they cost 2 tributes. But however, rather than me just pandering on about this, let me get on to the deck profile and then I'll explain some combos and stuff, or just my general thoughts and stuff. Now, first and foremost, I play 2 Mozarta, the Melodious Maestra. Now, this thing is a level 8, 2600 Light Fairy. Once per turn, you can special summon any Light Fairy type monster from your hand. You cannot special summon other monsters that turn you activate this effect, except for Light Fairy type monsters. Well, no, it's just Light monsters. Whoops, read that wrong. Anyway, so the main reason why I play 2, even though this card is really one of the main ones you want to try and get out early on, is the simple fact that it is a complete and total dead draw if you do not draw into Valhalla or Hecatrice to summon her out. Okay, in late game she's a dead draw. Just honestly, she's a card you don't want to draw into unless you have this. No, not this. This. Then I played 3 Soprano. Now, Soprano kind of the same thing, but however it's more bearable. And I say that because what this card allows you to do is it allows you to add any light fairy type monster from your graveyard to your hand. And the reason why this is good is, let's see here, reuse Honest every turn. Keep on you reusing it over and over and over and over and over. Do you see why? Not only that, but also allows you to get back your monsters from your grave that you can use later on, or just summon out with Mozarta if you happen to have them out, and it is amazing when you have these two out because they work so well together. Next up, I played 2 Elegy. Elegy, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that she forms a lockdown with Aria, I would not even consider playing it. But however, due to the fact that it forms a lockdown with Aria, this is just an amazing card. Okay, so all special summon Melodious monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. While this special summon card is on the field, all fairy type monsters you control gain 300 attack. Now, that cannot be destroyed by card effects part sounds pretty good by itself. Well, let's go over to Aria, who I play 3 of. Aria is a level 4, 1600 light fairy type monster. Pretty good stats actually for level 4. While the special summoning card is on the field, Melodious monsters you control cannot be targeted by card effects or be destroyed by battle. Now, the reason why these two form a lock is because if you have both of these out and they've both been special summoned, they make it to where your opponent cannot they cannot destroy your monsters by battle, by card effects, or target them with card effects. Literally, with these two out, your opponent's only options to get rid of your monsters is by using non-targeting, non-destruction effects. And there's only 2 cards I can think of that do that. I mean, I'm sure there are others, but I can't think of any others. And that is Medose Tiramisu and Rainbow Dragon. They both have effects to get rid of stuff on the field without destroying or targeting them. I'm sure there are others, but I can't think of them right now. So, yeah, if you guys happen to know anything, let me know. Then I played 2 Hecatrice. Maybe it starts out to 2 Valhalla. I used to play 3, but I dropped it to 2 because I really needed the room. Next up, I played 3 Soprano. And this card is pretty good, however, it does have some drawbacks. Now, level 4, 14 by 14 Light Fairy. When this card is special summoned, you can target any Melodious monster in your graveyard except itself, add it to your hand. Pretty good. You can only use this effect per turn. Once per turn, you can fusion summon 1 Melodious fusion monster from your X deck using monsters you control as fusion materials, including this card. Now, here's my problem with this card. It only uses monsters on the field. So, what that means is I cannot use this thing with a Mozarta in my hand to summon out Bloom Diva. I cannot do it. I have to have Mozarta out on field to do it. And honestly, unless this situation calls for it, I would much rather keep Mozarta on field and go into Bloom Diva. But, however, this card is still good, especially for going into Suberta and other things. And also, it's useful for going into rank 4s and other things. It's also a pretty good target for this card over here, but we'll get into that soon. Next up, I play 2 Honest. It's a light deck. You play 2 Honest. And also, the fact that you can recur it with Soprano is amazing. Next up, I play 3 Sonata. Now, Sonata is a very special monster. If you control a Melodious monster, you can spell summon this card from your hand. I think there's only 2 monsters that say that. And that's Sonata and Cannon. And I wish more just Melodious monsters had that effect. And while this card is face up, while the spell summon card is on the field, all fairy type monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. That means at max, your monsters can gain 1500 attack and defense. That gets ridiculous. Coupled with the fact that you'll probably have Aria and Elegy out, you have godly amount of attack power monsters that are unaffected by everything, basically. It gets ridiculous. Next up, I play 2 Transmodify. Honestly, if I could find a room, I'd probably play 3, but however, it's really hard to find room in this deck. 4 things. Now, Transmodify, what this basically allows you to do is it allows you to special summon activate Valhalla, special summon Aria, normal summon Soprano, activate Transmodify, and summon out Elegy. Boom, there you go, lockdown. That's the general thing, although you can also use it on Soprano to summon out Mozarta. You can use it on Sonata to summon out pretty much any of the level 4s. You can, heck, I've even done it to Honest to get out Elegy. I hate doing that, but I had to. Next up, I play 2 Polymerization. If Soprano could use monsters in hand for a Refusion effect, I would not even touch Polymerization with a 10-foot pole in this deck, to be completely honest, because it's a dead card. Well, it's almost always live, give or take, but however, it is a dead card if you are just not able to make use of your fusions at that moment, or if they really would not be helpful in that moment. But however, with that being said, until they release someone else that lets you use monsters in your hand, you play Polymerization. Next up, I play first move, two first movement solo. Sorry about that, guys. If it's basically another Valhalla, but it can only summon out a level 4 or lower Melodious monsters, and it can do it while you control no monster, so your opponent doesn't have to control a monster. And it's pretty nice. You can only activate 1 per turn, which is understandable. And you cannot spell summon any monsters this turn except for Melodious monsters. That last part I often forget about, and it often leads me to do something stupid. So, continuing on. Fool's Burial. Maybe just simply to get stuff engraved like Mozarta so I can call to Haunted It back or something. It's also useful for getting Aria into grave so I can call to Haunted It back. Same thing with Elegy. You generally want to hit your level 5 and higher ones with Fool's Burial. And again, if I could find a room, I'd probably play a discard outlet or something. I've seen some people play 3 Mozarta and like 2 trade-in or something, but honestly, it's doable. But if there was more wasters at Mozarta, it'd be better. I play 2 MST, kind of standard. I play 2 Photon Lead. Now this card is very interesting. Basically, it says special summon a level 4 or lower light monster from your hand and face up attack position. So let's say I already control some monsters and I draw into this and I have Aria in my hand. I don't really want to normal summon Aria, so I activate this, summon out Aria. Really good. 2 Valhalla. I shouldn't really have to explain it here. Then I play 2 Short of Greed. Now, I play Short of Greed because I like being able to draw 2 cards, and I don't mind waiting for a turn or 2 to get those 2 cards. And in this deck, to be completely honest, guys, is a stall deck at its very core. You stall out with Aria, with Elegy, building up your resources until the point where you can summon out a bunch of Sonata or summon out Mozarta and Soprano and just start hammering at your opponent's life points. Now, that being said, you can wait a few turns to get your draws. Now, of course, if you activate this too soon and your opponent MSTs it, it actually serves another purpose in acting as MST bait, which is pretty nice. Then I play 2 Dimensional Prison. You can swap this out with any 2 cards you want. I play Dimensional Prison for defensive purposes. And also the fact that a lot of things don't like being banished, but however, of course, Ritual Peace is a thing right now. And I play 3 Call to Haunted because stuff will die, and you do need stuff in your graveyard very often. So this allows you to make some pretty good plays, like special summoning out aria or normal summoning out her, and going and activating transmodify, summoning out LG, setting call to haunted, bringing back aria next turn, preferably during your opponent's turn so they can't do anything. Now, onto the extra deck. To be completely honest, the extra deck is completely up to you with this deck, because honestly, you almost never go into it. Okay, I go into the fusions occasionally, and sometimes make Fairy Cheer Girl to draw some cards. Once or twice 101, and once or twice Star Race Dynamo. With that being said, you don't really go into it very, very often. Some interesting cards that you can play though is Bujinte Tsukiyomi, whom of which you can use to get your big guys or girls out of your hand and into the grave, so you can call to haunt them back and getting some more draws. Fairy Cheer Girl is a pretty good card. It needs 2 level 4 fairy type monsters to go into. You can detach an exceed material from it and draw a card. You sadly can only use this effect once per turn. Dynamo is still a good card. I mean, I don't know why. Well, then again, we don't really have very many light decks, now I think about it, but I don't even see, what was it called again? Teller Knights. I don't even see Teller Knights playing this card anymore, but it is a pretty good card, and I do recommend playing it. Same thing with Constellar Omega. All it needs is 2 level 4 lights, and you can just basically summon it and not have to worry about your opponent's back row. Now, to talk about the 2 special cards, well, 4 since I played 2 of each, and that is the fusions. Bloom Diva, the Melodious Muse. By the way, I just want to say this. I love the card art for this card. Okay, it needs 1 Melodious Maestra and 1 Melodious Monster. So you could technically use 2 Melodious Maestros, but however, ideally, you'll want to use 1 Melodious Maestra and any of these other ones over here. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, you take no damage from attacks involving this card. If this card battles an opponent's special summon monster, after damage calculation, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between this card's original attack and your opponent's monster's original attack. And if you do, destroy that opponent's monster. This card is obnoxious for your opponent, and it just basically makes them not want to go into their special summon stuff because they cannot kill it, and with Aria out, they cannot target it. So it just gets really annoying for your opponent, and it is just so fun. Sadly, because it has 1,000 attack and not 0, it does not do as much damage as I would like, but hey, it still does a good amount of damage. And then we got Super the Melodious Maestra here. 2 Melodious monsters, any 2, doesn't matter. During either player's turn, you can target up to 3 cards in any graveyard, banish them, and if you do, this card gains 200 attack for each card banished by this effect. You can sadly only use this effect once while this card is face up on the field, but however, getting rid of any 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard, preferably your opponent's, you don't want to get rid of yours very often, unless, like, I don't know, your opponent puts something in there that you'd rather have in your banish zone or something, but that doesn't really happen too often. Now, basically what this does is it allows you to get rid of stuff in your opponent's graveyard that they need. So, like, for instance, if you're going against Gem Knights, get rid of that Gem Knight Fusion. Oh, hey, look at that. They cannot use Gem Knight Fusion's recurring effect anymore. And, oh, hey, why don't you get rid of 2 of their Gem Knight monsters as well? Or, better yet, if they have 3 Gem Knight Fusion, get rid of all 3 and lock them out of their Fusion summoning unless they, I don't know, play Fragment Fusion or something. It can also be useful for getting rid of other cards in your opponent's graveyard that are just obnoxious, like, I don't know, Necrogarna, targets for JD's summon, and various other things. And, of course, since it's chainable, if you're doing against, like, zombies or Lightsworn or something, and they use their effects to summon something from grave, you can go ahead and chain this and get rid of their targets. It's a really good card, and honestly, it's worth playing at 2, possibly even 3. Same thing with Boom Diva, but, however, due to the fact that we only have 5 ways of summoning them, and the fact that you don't really need to go into them very often, I recommend playing 2 of each. Just saying. Now then, guys, what do you think of the deck? I personally very much like it. It is a very fun deck to play. It's a bit inconsistent. That is something that the deck has always had a problem with, and that is something that they still have a problem with, and that is the consistency issue. Of course, you're playing, what, like, a fourth of your monsters are high-level monsters that you cannot just normal summon out, and that prevents you, and that alone right there just kind of says inconsistency. But however, they have so many ways to get stuff out that it really is, it makes up for it. It tries, but it has trouble keeping up with faster decks. But however, of course, with the aria and LG lockdown, you can wait for as long as you want until your opponent flips up the skill tree. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. And tell me, what do you think this deck needs to be more consistent? See you guys later.